now, the Duval Rundown, driven by Jacksonville Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram Westside, home of the lifetime warranty.
Good morning. Welcome to another edition of Duval Rundown. I'm Hayes Carline. Pleased to be joined as always on Friday with Rick Ballou. You can hear Rick into the night. Rick, good morning. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. I mean, what a weekend. Last night, pretty good game. We got some good games tonight, high school, college, and certainly tomorrow's going to be outstanding. But, for Jaguar fans, it's been a long time coming. It's been 5 weeks since we've had a home game back here in Duval. And, unfortunately, that fourth quarter may change things a little bit, but it's a resilient group, this fan base. I still think they'll be rowdy. They'll be ready to go Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, and they need to be, because you look at the matchup for this game against the Chargers, and the Chargers have a ton of talent, but they do have an Achilles heel like pretty much every team in the NFL, but theirs is pretty significant. Their offensive line is just in shambles. Now, this is a familiar theme. We talked a lot about this last week with Houston, and the Jaguars couldn't take advantage of it. But looking at this matchup, the Chargers, Rashawn Slater, lost for the year in training camp, their outstanding left tackle. Joe Alt, a top 5 pick not too long ago, their outstanding right tackle, gone for the year. So not only have they lost their 2 starting offensive tackles, they're 2 of their major building blocks for this roster. So an opportunity for the Jaguar pass rush, but it frankly hard to have a lot of confidence in that group when the Jaguars are last in the league in sacks. Do you think they can do anything to rally and get Herbert to the ground?
It's going to be interesting. Herbert, by the way, leads the league in pressures that, he has seen, and has done a nice job, navigating this offense, particularly in the last 5 games where they've improved by more than 9 points compared to what they did in the first 5 games. That tackle situation, and going back to Bobby Hart at right tackle, he didn't play last week. Going with Trevor Penning at left tackle, who they just brought in. So these are legitimately going to be their 3rd different left and right tackles, respectively. I hope so. And, I'd put Herbert in the same group as Burrow and Stafford, where, you and I talked about blitzing those type of quarterbacks. It did work against Burrow. We know he went down early with the injury. Stafford just picked him apart. He's having an MVP season. But this is really, disturbing right now. They get pressures, but they're not getting quarterback hits. They're not getting sacks. And here's what I'm starting to wonder about a little bit, is that I wonder if teams have seen something with this defense that, pressures are coming, but you're getting rid of the ball. Davis Mills did this, got rid of it just a smidge over 2 seconds. And I don't know what you've seen, but it almost feels like this intermediate stuff, these really short passes that Jacksonville's given up too much in their drops. They're up on the line of scrimmage, taking on these wide receivers, and then right before the ball gets snapped, they're already in a back pedal. So these intermediate routes, these high percentage passes are there for opposing teams. And you can look at that as somewhat of an excuse as to why the pressure is not where it should be, why the sacks are not coming in bunches the way that you would think it would at some point throughout the season. I'm not sure. I tend to think it's a combination of them both. But even with this poor offensive line, I still think it hurts Jacksonville. We saw it, last week. Look at the reclamation project that Houston had. They had a young left tackle. They had a brand new right guard and right tackle. And still, Jacksonville in this game only had a couple of sacks.
And looking at Herbert, let's take a peek at the quarterback matchup here, because it seems like Trevor Lawrence gets compared to Justin Herbert more than any other quarterback that's sort of around his age. They weren't in the same draft class, but it feels like, for whatever reason, it feels like Herbert and Lawrence, particularly Trevor. Herbert, it's irrelevant. No Chargers fan compares him to Trevor Lawrence. They feel like he's eons above Trevor Lawrence. And I do think he's been significantly better than Trevor Lawrence in his career. But on Trevor's end, it seems like Jaguar fans, that's the quarterback that they want to point to. And I get it. Trevor had the triumphant, the amazing comeback against Justin Herbert. But Herbert's had by far the better career. I mean, the Chargers know that Herbert's their quarterback for the next 12 years. You don't know that with Trevor Lawrence. He hasn't played well enough to secure that. We know he's the quarterback for the rest of this year and probably 26. But there's nothing promised beyond that. I don't care what his contract says. How do you look at this quarterback matchup? And is it time now, in your opinion, for Trevor Lawrence to take a big step forward?
Yeah, and he's had success against Herbert. He's beaten him whenever they played, including that incredible come from behind victory. But Herbert is the guy, and I think you nailed it. They're not talking about it in Los Angeles this morning, or once their morning officially gets underway, that he's comparable to Trevor Lawrence. He's better than Trevor Lawrence in their opinion, and the numbers would support that. This is huge now for Trevor. I mean, the Liam Cohen announcement on Wednesday about playing free and don't worry about, don't dwell on making mistakes. Don't be so worried about things like that. Go out and let it rip and all of this. But this frankly isn't a great Sunday or a great game for this to dramatically turn around for Jacksonville. A buddy of mine sent me some props for this week and everything that was going on. There wasn't one Jaguars wide receiver listed because they don't know. It's game 2 for Myers, Parker Washington with a hamstring, Brian Thomas Jr. We don't know what's going on, with him. So my point is that this is a really beaten up bunch. And if they can't run the football, this is going to be a problem for Jacksonville. So Trevor's going to get the blame. He deserves the blame. But, this is the way I kind of look at things is he led them to 6 consecutive drives for points 2 weeks ago in Las Vegas. They allowed a 14-play, 93-yard drive. He got the ball back with 31 seconds. He picked up a first down, a valuable one with his feet. Every time he touched the ball, he got sacked. He completed that pass to Parker Washington. If you didn't have the hands to the face by Chuma Edoga, you're in field goal range for Cam Little. And he snapped out of it. I was totally convinced that Cam Little was going to make a game-winning field goal. Can you imagine what it would have been like in town this week, even though they blew a 19-point lead? If Little makes that field goal, it would have been considered a 31-second come-from-behind victory for Trevor Lawrence. He actually did the job. Now, the penalty wiped that out, and it has been the exact opposite. Trevor can't do this. Trevor can't do that. Trevor's not the guy. It's amazing how one play affected the entire thought on what's going on right now with the quarterback.
Yeah, it's an excellent point. And Trevor Lawrence has done some good things. This isn't to say that he's a 0 and Herbert's a 10. But I think in this matchup, and you hit something on the head with the prop bets, I don't think I've ever seen this in an NFL matchup before. The Chargers have 4 receivers or tight ends. They have 4 players that have at least 466 receiving yards this season. 4. The Jaguars don't have 1. Think about that. And all those 4 will be healthy. McConkey, Johnston, Allen, Gadsden, the rookie tight end, the sensation there. They have 4 players that have at least 466 yards receiving this season, who are all going to be out there Sunday. The Jaguars don't have 1. Their leading receiver is Brian Thomas Jr. with 420 yards. So, we can talk about, the Chargers offensive line, being a wreck, and it is. And Herbert's done a good job. Herbert's a tough kid. I mean, you watch them play, and I mean, he stands in there knowing he is going to get hit. Frankly, I mean, I don't know if he'll make it to the end of the year with how he plays. And I mean, I commend him for how tough he is, but they're not getting all or Slater back. And it just seems like at some point it's going to be too much for Herbert's body to withstand. He got caught from behind in their last game, and it looked like maybe he had a little bit of an ankle, but played through it. and he's fine. He's going to play Sunday, but the point is he has done a good job of elevating the other aspects of the game. They're down to their third running back, but Vidal has done a nice job in there. So they've done a good job of masking as much as they can in terms of the results. He's getting hit more than any other quarterback, but it's, to your point, it hasn't slowed down their effectiveness as an offense because he has elevated the other 10 guys that are out there. Herbert's mobility has been, really a surprise this year in terms of how willing a runner he has been. He was their leading rusher for a while. He's not now, but he still has 364 yards on the ground. We don't think of Justin Herbert that way, but he's kind of like Trevor in that they both have that ability that, just in terms of straight ahead speed, they can get it going pretty fast for guys that are, 6'5", 6'6". So, that's an element of Lawrence's game that, is they're trying to bring a little bit more out. He's had some success. He did have the 21-yard run on that potential game-winning drive in Houston on Sunday. Nice run. So, I mean, that could be a big key in how this game gets decided, Rick, is simply which quarterback is able to use their legs more. But Lawrence has to elevate. Like, the offensive line hasn't been very good. The receivers have been terrible. But at some point, and I think the point Liam Cohen is making is some point, you got to take the what is there, you've got to be able to see, and you got to take it. Herbert is seeing it. If it's there, he's seeing it. He's getting the ball out. And again, he's got a much better cast of receivers around him, pass catchers. But really going to be interesting to see how these two play and to see if Trevor Lawrence can start to elevate. And by elevate, maybe that is if he's able to run for 40 yards and move the chains a couple times with some nice runs, that may be all the difference in the world.
And protect the ball. And he's done a nice job, with that. That was a problem, 2 years ago. And then last year, I kind of felt like that was the main message to him is everyone's going to throw interceptions, but whether you're in the pocket or leaving the pocket or trying to make a play, don't fumble the football. Yeah, I think Trevor Lawrence and his legs is real big in this game. And, a couple of things to look at that I think falls into this category with Herbert and Lawrence is that 55% in the fourth quarter are the Chargers on third down. They're top 4 in the league in offensive third downs. They're top 5 in the league in defensive third downs. So very good football team in clutch situations. Jacksonville has struggled massively on third down. It's one of the biggest surprises that I've seen this year with the Liam Cohen bunch. We know that a year ago he was number 1 in Tampa, 50.7%. They're around 34% on third down this year. I think they were 4 of 11 last week as well in Houston. That is so important in a game like this. Whether they're self-inflicted wounds, we know Jacksonville leads the league in penalties. They also lead the league in offensive penalties. These are the type of mistakes that you cannot make. I mean, they never should have blown that lead, but we just talked about it a minute ago. You don't have that penalty on Edoga. I think you win that game. So you can't do that here against a good Chargers team. This is going to mean more to Herbert going in, I would think, honestly, than Trevor, because Herbert hasn't beaten him yet. Herbert remembers what happened on this field a couple of years ago. I mean, up 27-0 and letting it go. And he's trying to really take that next step. He lost that game. And I think that is something that has been etched in his memory. He's been asked about it all week long out there in LA. Around here, it's kind of gone away. It's like because you were on the other side of it, you're on the victorious side of it. But, this game really should have been, if you look at it going back a couple of years, I'm not going to be foolish and say, Brady and Manning, but boy, the hype on this game, if this was 2022, 2023, and all of a sudden this, you look at the schedule, I would have envisioned this as 2 top 5 quarterbacks, leading their teams. They're both wild card teams right now. If the playoffs were this weekend, these teams would both be playing. in the playoffs. And, Herbert's lived up to it despite the injuries. It's time for Trevor Lawrence. And, I've said it for 3 weeks in a row. And frankly, he did it in Vegas. Even though the numbers don't support it, I still think he did it in Houston. He had him in the situation before the penalty. And, we'll see if he's able to do it here. It's going to be a tough game. I mean, you just look around the league. Outside of Duval, I haven't seen anyone pick Jacksonville to win this football game. And we're talking about a field goal difference here. Jacksonville started as the favorite. Now it's flipped over where it's around 2.5, maybe 3, depending on where you go. But a 3-point game, it's almost overwhelming if you look at the money that's coming in on Los Angeles, and as well, just the national media and the pundits all across the country think the Chargers win this game.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Let's take a little peek at the Jaguar defense as well, what we want to see in the injury report. But before we do that, Jacob Simon's always helping us out on Duval Rundown. Jacob, let's say hello to our sponsor, please.
I'm Rick Ballou, Jacksonville Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram Westside, proud partner of the Jaguars. Drive with confidence. Every new vehicle comes with our exclusive lifetime warranty. 7030 Commonwealth Avenue or online at jackswest.com.
Rick, you brought this up earlier in regards to the Jaguar defense and lack of a pass rush. I thought it was really interesting. Liam Cohen talked a little bit about it on Wednesday, and he complimented the Chargers, and he said they're very sticks aware. They're second and third level, very sticks aware, and that's what he attributed their excellent third down defense to. And he talked about the Jaguars like maybe needing to be tighter in that zone, that because the Jaguars are so good against the run, and entering week 11, they're 5th against the run, that teams are throwing it a little bit more on first down, and the Jaguars are bailing out too fast. So the quarterback is getting a lot of room on 1st and 10 throws to go ahead and get a nice play to keep the down and distance enviable as they continue. So that'll certainly be something to monitor. What's your expectation? Let's start with the run defense. Do you think the Jaguars can slow down Vidal and limit Herbert's, killer runs particularly on critical third downs?
No, I think he's playing well. I mean, if he gets 100 yards from the line of scrimmage, that'll be a 4th consecutive game. He's really picked it up. What an opportunity, a former 6th round pick, year 2. Their top 2 backs, as we know, are down and out. Again, LA, significant injuries, especially on the offensive side of the football. No, I think the Chargers still move the ball. I think they've seen the game plan. I think film study is going to allow a veteran quarterback like Herbert to understand that he can throw the ball early. And again, I mean, is Jacksonville playing a little bit too far off the defensive line of scrimmage? Are they giving those balls in front of them? And if so, I think Herbert has an opportunity to pick them apart. I still like Jacksonville overall when it comes to their run defense. I think this will be a team that, Los Angeles will certainly be a pass-first team. But, the combination of the rookie back, Vidal and Herbert, I still think they'll have some success. I don't think an overwhelming success, but I still think 90 to 100, 110 yards. I think that's all you really need if you're LA. Then you can do the rest in the air. They got 10 points early on takeaways. It was huge. It'd been a little bit since Jackson would play complimentary football. You got the pick by Jarian Jones. You talk about a flipping the switch. I mean, this guy played 6 plays in 5 games. Then all of a sudden, because of the Lewis injury, he's played really well. I mean, Pro Football Focus has graded him 1 and 2 in the last 2 weeks with their grades, but the eye test supports that. He gets a pick. Ventrell Miller pounds the ball out on the return, and Strigo falls on it, and you take advantage of it. You get 10 points. I mean, that's not traditional Jaguars football, and they went out and they did it. So, yeah, I think it's another big game here too, where can you get a couple of takeaways at home? Typically, when you win the turnover to takeaway ratio, you're going to win the game. And, Jacksonville has to protect the football on their side. But if they could get a couple of takeaways in this game from Herbert and maybe force a fumble somewhere, that could end up being the difference in the contest.
Yeah, it's a great point. The Jaguars are +8, so they still are fantastic in terms of turnover margin. That's tied for second in the league, and the Chargers are -1. They're tied for 16th. So if the Jaguars have a path to victory, it's very likely winning the turnover battle will have a lot to do with that. Rick, we'll get you out with this. How do you think the game plays out, and who do you like in the game?
I think today will be interesting when we get the injury report, and I think a lot of it's going to come down to 90 minutes before kick on Sunday. Travis Hunter gets IR'd. You had 13 players on the injury report, and they added 2 more yesterday, and Logan Cook and Ventrell Miller. You've got 15 players right now on the injury report. How many of them are going to go? Is Parker Washington going to play? Is Brian Thomas Jr. going to play? Is Anton Harrison going to play? Is Jordan Lewis going to play? Is Ezra Cleveland going to play? It just goes on and on and on and on. This team's too beaten up right now, in my opinion. Herbert's the better quarterback. That's the difference. I hate it for this fan base because they've waited 5 weeks. Now, I've also been wrong. I had them winning last week in Houston. So let's hope that I'm wrong here today. I think Los Angeles wins this football game.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I just think the Chargers are too explosive in the passing game. I don't think the Jaguars are going to be able to cover all those receivers, McConkey, Allen. I wouldn't be surprised if Quentin Johnston got deep once, and Gadsden's been very good as well, moving the chains. So yeah, I like the Chargers. Too much firepower, and we'll see. Hopefully, the Jaguars prove us wrong and can get a huge victory. That's going to do it for us. Rick, thanks so much. We'll be back on Monday with Frank Frangie, voice of the Jaguars and host of the Frangie Show on Duval Rundown. That's going to do it for us. Enjoy the game and go Jags.